As mentioned, my name is Jinha, and I am one of the pastors of the Melbourne City Adventist Church. And it was formerly known as The Exchange, but we're actually changing our name to Melbourne City Adventist Church, and I'll explain why in a moment. But the other pastor there, as mentioned in my introduction, is my husband, Roy, and we have two involuntary interns in training as well, who are very cheeky and keep us very busy. 5 years ago, the Victorian Conference asked us to come and plant a church in Melbourne CBD targeting young professionals who are 40% of the city population. So there are two other church plants in Melbourne, but they felt that the need was great, and so they asked us to come and start from scratch. We didn't have a mother church, and so we had 5 brave souls who decided to take a risk on 2 Korean Americans that they could indeed come and minister to Aussie professionals. And so in 2013, we started with small groups, and then we launched church services, very tentatively, wondering what was going to happen next. And by the grace of God, today we have 75 regular contacts to our church. Not everyone comes every Sabbath, and I'll explain why also later. So on average, we have 40 people attending our church every Sabbath. I don't have a current picture for you. We have our group photos on our church anniversaries, which is in February, so we'll be taking our picture next week, but you'll get to see some of the faces in a moment. Out of the 75 regular contacts that we have, 10 are children, and then we have the rest 65 adults, out of which 60 are between the ages of 25 and 45. Of the 65 adults, we have 12 reclaimed Adventists who hadn't been to church in 3 to 5 years. And we also have 15 unchurched. Do you need something? Sorry, got it. We have, I've been reprimanded to stay on the carpet, sorry. We have 15 unchurched individuals who have never been to church, who are completely new to Christianity. So how have we grown over the past years to this place? There are many factors, but one factor definitely has been technology. As you saw, because we are a church of young professionals, everyone uses technology every day. We all do. We're all always on our mobile phones, we use the internet, we use email, etc. And so we've had to use online tools to do ministry. It became a very natural thing to do, and a very necessary thing to do for our target audience. Technology has been helpful not only in building our church community internally, but it also has been extremely useful in reaching out. And so in our workshop on Friday, we're going to be sharing about a dozen different tools. But for today, I just wanted to focus on 5 tools that have helped us bring outside members into our community. And the very first thing is our website. Now, what I'm sharing is not revolutionary. These are simple things that we can all do in our churches that actually make an impact. And when it comes to the church website, this is the first impression that someone outside has of your church. Before they even walk through the door, they're going to make a value judgment based on what your website looks like. So when you log into our website, it starts out by saying it says welcome to the Exchange, but the website is melbournecityadventist.org. And what we decided is actually we're going to change our name. It always was Melbourne City Adventist Church, but we also had the Exchange attached to it. But we decided, you know what, starting this year, we're going to actually update our website and make sure that everything just says Melbourne City Adventist Church, so that when you go on Google and look for a Seventh-day Adventist Church in Melbourne City, it'll pop up very quickly. It'll be easy to find because of the name. And so if you scroll down on our website, you get to see that there are clear pictures and buttons that take you to information. If you're new, it says I'm new. You can click on it, and it takes you to information about our church. If you scroll down further, there are videos of our sermons that are uploaded regularly. And this is very important because if you want your church's website to come up on Google results, and not just on the 100th page of the results, but on the first page, it's important that you keep your website fresh. In other words, you have to upload content regularly, because that then tells Google's algorithms, oh, this website is actually being used, and therefore will be relevant to those who are searching. And so we have sermons that are uploaded there regularly. And then if you go down further, there's also posts that are updated regularly, which I'll talk about in a moment, as well as recent events that are pulled directly from our Facebook site automatically. as well as a contact page. Now, we paid someone to do this professionally, and I highly recommend that you pay someone. Sometimes we like to use volunteers, or we like to do it ourselves, but the truth is we are competing in a day and age where websites look great. And so if they're used to looking at high definition, nice quality websites, and then come to your church's website and it looks like it's from the 80s, they're going to think that the people in your church are from the, well, even before that, right? Older generation. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's who your church is targeting. But if your church actually wants to target younger generations and wants to be more modern, then I highly recommend that you pay someone to get it done well. And there's a way to pay them to do it so that things like events, things like sermon topics can be uploaded pretty easily so that once they set it up for you, it's not that much work to keep it up. So our website gets a lot of hits because of our content that's uploaded. And actually, because it looks attractive, we've had a number of people say, you know what, I found your church on the web, and I looked at several churches, and we decided to come to yours because your website looked like it was actually current, and it looked like there were exciting things happening. And in fact, we had 13 out of our 75 contacts come through our website as their first point of contact. And some of those people are Adventists who moved to Melbourne and looked up a Seventh-day Adventist church in Melbourne. But some of those are actually non-Adventists, unchurched people who maybe saw a TV episode, perhaps saw It Is Written, perhaps saw a video online, or perhaps have Adventist relatives and friends and decided, you know what, I want to check out a Seventh-day Adventist church in Melbourne. And so then they just looked it up on Google, and our website came up. And they also saw that we were on Google Maps, which is also important if you want your church to be found. But another reason why our website also gets high points on Google search results is because of our blog. The blog on our website is simply short reflections on spiritual matters. Once a week we put these up. Sometimes they're book reviews, sometimes they're just devotional thoughts, sometimes they're links to other websites. And the important thing about this blog, once again, is that it keeps the website fresh, and it's something that people can read so they can get a feel of the ethos of your church, so they can see the theology of your church a little bit before they come physically into your church. When I first started blogging, I used to do it by myself. You know, once a week I would write something. And at first I meant it for our own church members as a discipleship tool. But then quickly it became an outreach method, because what happened is we post a link to this blog on our Facebook site, sometimes on my personal Facebook wall, but also the church's Facebook site. And I noticed that our members started sharing that link on their Facebook wall. And then people started reading. And you know, sometimes we write things and we wonder, is it just going into a black hole? Is anybody reading this out there? And I used to get discouraged. Oh, do I want to sit down and write another one if no one's going to read it? Well, one day I was talking to some friends of mine. We used to have neighbors. We used to live in the city, and we had neighbors, and we had moved out, but we kept in touch with them. And one day we were just hanging out together, and the friend turned to me and said, you know, the values and beliefs of your church really resonate with me. And I looked at Roy and I was like, did you talk about our church? He's like, no, did you talk? No, we have never talked about our church's values and beliefs to our friends. And she looked at me and she said, well, I've been reading the blogs on your Facebook link. And she said, I really want to visit your church. And it completely stunned us. You put these things online wondering if anyone reads, and the truth is they do. People are reading and the Holy Spirit is working. And so keep writing, even if it's short, even if it's links, put something up on your website regularly. And just don't do it by yourself. At first, I started doing these on my own, and then I realized, why not have a team of people? And so now I have a team of about 6 people. There's a roster, so one person writes on one week, and then another person does it. And the beauty of that is that because they're connected to networks that I'm not connected to, when they put up a blog, I link their name on Facebook, and then now all of their networks read their blog and can come into our website. So I highly recommend having a team who can blog on your website, because you never know who's reading online. And you also never know who's watching online. Very early in our church setup, we decided we wanted to have live streaming. And some people kind of were like, are we ready to be at that stage? We're just starting. But actually, I'm so glad we did, because it did several things. One, at first we set this up because so many of our young professionals travel. We have 75 regular contacts, but an average of 40, sometimes 50, attend our church. And the truth is, they love to travel, whether for leisure or maybe because of work. They're away often. And so we first set up live streaming so they would have an opportunity to watch and keep up with the church while they were away. But again, we found that this ended up being a great outreach tool because people shared this link online. And they started sharing this link with their family and friends and people overseas even. And so this became something that became a regular part of our church and actually grew our church. One young lady who was living in another state were watching our live streams for months. And it just so happened that she ended up getting a job in Melbourne. So then she moved to Melbourne and she came to our church and she said, I feel like I'm already a part of this church because I've been attending on live stream for months. And then we had another couple who were watching our live streams because of a friend who had sent them the link. And we didn't know that they were watching. And then one day they said to us, you know what? Do you have the discussion questions online? Because our church has a very unique format. First, we have our sermon at 10:15. And so if you come to visit us at 11, you've missed the sermon. And so the reason why we do that is because at 10:15, we have the sermon. And then after the sermon at 11:30, we have a time of discussion, very much like the style here that we have today. And we have pre-written questions so that we can delve deeper into the topic in small groups. And so what would happen is during the live stream, we would preach, and then after the sermon, we would always announce, please join us for discussion time. And this couple who were watching online said, well, can you put the discussion questions online? So we did, but then they realized, well, it's not so fun discussing with just the two of them. They wanted to be part of the community. They wanted to learn, well, what do other people have to think about this? And so they decided to come to church so that they could be a part of the discussion. And so then the online engagement became personal face-to-face interaction. The young man who set the live streaming up for us is a very shy young man. And if you meet him, you'll hardly get 2 words out of him. He was actually our first baptism. But he works for IT, and we went to him and said, James, can you set up live streaming for us? We have no idea how to do it. And he said, well, I'll figure it out. And he did. So even though he's not a public speaker, he has amplified our voice so that we can have an online presence, which has led to the growth of our church. And so using these online tools is a great way to empower your church members who perhaps want to do more behind-the-scenes work. Well, this is a great way to do that. So you never know who's watching, you never know who's reading, and so we encourage you to go into websites, live streaming, sermon uploading. And one of the best tools that we have found to go from the online engagement to face-to-face interaction has been Meetup. Oh, by the way, this is half our group. I told them I'm presenting next week. We don't have a group photo, so let's just take one with the people who we have today. So this is a face-to-face interaction for you. Meetup is a website that engages over 23 million people all over the world in 180 countries. And it boasts 250,000 local groups. What do I mean by that? What Meetup does is when the person joins for free on meetup.com, they can indicate what categories they enjoy, hobbies and interests. So for example, crafts or cooking or hiking, mountain climbing, or perhaps they're extroverted or introverted. So they indicate what categories or what personalities or fields that they are. And what happens is Meetup suggests events and organizations that fit that criteria. So as the organizer, you only pay $10 a month to have 50 members, or you pay $15 for unlimited members. And that account gives you 3 groups. So the first group that we established is Bible Study for Busy Professionals. We wanted to have a small group in the city during lunchtime so people who are working can come out for a quick Bible study group. Again, at first we set this up as a discipleship thing to develop our members during the week. But once we put it on Meetup, it became evangelistic because people who would indicate religion or spirituality or Bible on their Meetup account would be told about this Meetup group. So they started coming. In the first 1.5 years that we ran this, we had 12 non-Adventists attend. Out of the 12, 4 continued to come every time, or almost every time. And also out of the 12 and out of the 4, we have had 2 attend our church regularly. One has moved away, but the other is currently in Bible study. And all of this for about 300 Australian dollars. And that's pretty good. The other group that we have is the outdoor fitness group. Again, something to promote the health of our members, but also something that they can invite their colleagues and friends to. This group has 100 members, and it's actually ongoing right now. So we don't have results yet, but we have one person who came previously who said they would be interested in coming to our church. You can take any ministry of your church and advertise it on Meetup. You can take 3 things in your church and advertise it on Meetup, all for just $15 US a month. And that's one of the beauties of online tools is that it's quite inexpensive. And so you're able to do things effectively without having to spend a lot of man hours or spending a lot of money. The last thing I want to share is Eventbrite, which is an absolutely free website. It doesn't cost you anything to advertise your free events. Well, it's a ticketing website, and it's meant to promote experience. So again, people indicate what they're interested in, and then the website advertises things that fit that criteria. And so you're able to just sign up and say, well, we're having a series. 4 months ago, Roy ran an evangelistic series. We advertised it at Eventbrite so that people could get these free tickets to come. And we had an individual come because of Eventbrite. She attended the series, and she came to church after, and we're continuing to follow up with her. The truth is, I'm actually not a tech guru. I was looking at the list of speakers, and everyone has PhDs, everyone is an expert in their field, and I've been asked to speak on technology. I'm not a technology guru. I'm just a local church pastor. But what I've realized is we have to meet people where they are. We have to meet the target audience, and we have to empower those people who do know how to do this to have this ministry, have this voice, have this avenue to experience and to participate in church growth. And so it is my prayer that as you experiment with and engage with and expand your online tools, that you will also be able to empower your local communities to be disciple-making movements. If you ever visit Melbourne, come on over and meet us, or you can also join us online anytime. Thank you. God bless.